It's BRS360 Thursday, episode 6, and it's time to share the shape and size of the BRS360. I spent 6 months deciding this, completely changing directions more than once. In the end, this is less about shape and more about form factor. And right after the show, Victor, one of the founders of Worldwide Corals, is joining us live. All that's coming up. Hey, I'm Ryan, your host of BRStv. BRStv is about fun, successful paths to reef tanks you can be proud of. This is the BRS360, a full circle journey of taking everything that we've learned about reefing, transforming those experiences into a 360-gallon reef tank. I'm pouring my soul into this, so I want it to be just right. I'm not sure if it's achievable, but my goal is to never look back and say, I wish I'd gone bigger or done a different shape. Getting it right is just going to be a lot cheaper than an upgrade or the cost of regret. This is a good time to listen to the reefers who've come before you, meaning if any of you out there have done a large tank and had a regret, share it with a quick comment with the rest of the community. Too big, too small, too short, too deep, in-wall, peninsula, acrylic, glass, square, rectangle. Even better, what turned out to be a perfect fit for you. This type of input is invaluable to anyone who's about to start this journey. So that's the challenge I'm solving today. No regrets, at least in terms of size and shape. First step is don't repeat my mistakes of the past. First one was with my first tank, which was a 90-gallon. It was a nice tank, but I wish someone had told me 120, which adds 6 inches of depth front to back, makes for a much better aquascape, more fish options, room for coral growth, and uses almost the same equipment, so the only real cost is a couple $100 for the tank itself. I would have done that in a heartbeat. Another mistake is a rimless 120 that we used for the Clownfish Harem series. 2 mistakes here. First, we didn't use thick enough glass, so there was a pretty serious bow on the front pane of glass. It was only 3/8 inch glass, and to be straight, I always worried about that tank from a safety perspective. There were a lot of people staying in front of that tank, more concerned as each year went on, and probably part of the reason why I ultimately took it down and Chad turned it into a terrarium that doesn't hold water. In the end, I would have gone thicker, shorter, or Euro braced it rather than go rimless with that kind of bow. Ultimately, even though it would have cost more, I also think I would have been happier with a 6-foot 180 for this tank as well, just because it would give more travel area for the fish community and even better management of the community aggression. The tank was pretty stunning. If we had had the right thickness and a 6-foot display, I don't think that I would have had the heart to take it down. In fact, with the BRS160, I made a similar mistake. Felix at Reef.6 is what I call a more conservative tank maker, meaning bowing and nonsense like that is totally off the table. That will never happen with a Reef.6 tank, but part of having standards means honest feedback, even if the customer doesn't want to hear it. In this case, he told me with this glass thickness and size, we should only go 20 inches tall on a rimless tank. I listened, and the tank is sharp and the 6-foot span is perfect with zero bow. However, the issue with 20-inch high SPS tanks is the corals reach the top rather fast and the corals outgrow the tank. That certainly happened to me. Now, I also exacerbated that issue by making the aquascape so high on one side. Joe from Unique Corals was here to aquascape the XXL 750 in hybrid series, and during that he mentioned with an SPS tank, the aquascape should never go higher than half the tank because the corals will fill in the space above it. Essentially, the SPS colonies become the aquascape. It may look empty for the first year or two, but every year after that, you'll be happy. That's great advice. In either case, I think I'd rather paid for thicker glass, got the Euro brace, or had a narrower tank so I could have that 24 to 27 inches high. We're obviously making it work here, but it's getting more challenging as time goes on. Outside of that, I'm going to share some of the challenges I know others have run into with length, width, and height. First, I don't know anyone who hasn't considered the value of going higher than 24 inches. There are a few things that happen there. One, the tank starts to become eye level without having an awkwardly high stand, meaning you don't have to bend down to see the tank. 2, the fish have a bit more natural swimming pattern with the ability to go up and down rather than just side to side. And lastly, a lot more room for a stunning aquascape and coral growth. This is the point where I tell you at least half the people that I've met that have gone higher than 28 inches or so regret it. That's because most people's arms are only 30 inches. With a 30-inch tank, you might be okay if you only want to clean the front of the tank, but if you want to clean the back, you can't reach it any longer. There are obviously still ways to clean the tank even if you can't reach it, like crawling over the tank, access to the back, or long tools, but I'd say it gets somewhere between 2 and 10 times as hard, which for most people means you're 2 to 10 times less likely to do it. Those few inches in height also mean thicker glass, more Euro bracing, even more cross bracing. No way around it. Going 30 inches and higher is super cool, but you have to know what you're signing up for. Same thing applies to depth front to back. Tanks 30, 36, or even 48 inches deep front to back are what I would very much refer to as dream depths, where again the fish now swim on an entirely different axis more effectively. Aquascapes are more visually interesting with contrast and depth, but maintenance difficulty scales right with that. Just put some real thought into what you're doing and how you're going to deal with it. Lastly, length mistakes. In this case, I think longer the better, at least to a point, and the only really issue becomes weight. Every 100 gallons probably adds more than 1,000 pounds. So all that said, I think you can see why 120 gallon and 180 gallon tanks are so popular. 2 feet tall, 2 feet deep, and 4 to 6 foot wide, easy to maintain, a weight most houses can handle somewhere with a bit of common sense. So this is where the dream tank bit comes in. With great dreams often comes great challenges. Otherwise, they'd often just be stuff you did rather than a dream. So know what you're getting into, accept the challenge and conquer it. So challenge accepted. Let's go see what turned out to be a priority for me and my solution to those challenges. So this is the tank. I framed it out in PVC. This is something I suggest everyone does. We sell 3- and 4-way PVC fittings for a variety of uses, something hardware stores don't stock. But with 8 3-way corner fittings and 4 4-way fittings are $30, I can frame out the tank and stand and get a real feel what this is going to look like in the room. Test arm length, simulate maintenance, and there isn't a better place I could put $30. The tank is 67 inches long, 47 inches wide, and 26.5 inches tall, or just over a hair over 360 gallons. I'll just say it, this is an odd or at least uncommon shape, not built for the masses, but instead something that addresses my specific mistakes of the past and desires for a long-term tank. First thing is it's a look-through peninsula, meaning there are 3 separate viewing panes, 2 of which are longer than another, which allows you to look through the tank. Look-through peninsulas are often used to separate areas of a room and can be pretty stunning. The ability to see through it does a few things, creates an artificial sense of depth, essentially gives you 2 aquascapes because a tank can have a totally different look from each side. A peninsula type tank has always been a dream of mine and something I just couldn't get away from. Peninsulas can be easier to clean in some ways because they can be accessed from both sides and there's no rock work against the glass, so cleaning behind the rock is easier, but you do have near twice the glass to clean now. And I will say not everyone likes seeing the room behind the tank. Many people prefer a black background. Flow and cord management with peninsulas can be also more challenging, but there's always trade-offs. These are just ones I'm willing to make. I came close to ordering a 10 to 12 foot peninsula dividing the room in front of me, but in the end I had other desires to consider as well. One, I like deep tanks, meaning front to back, but I refuse a depth which is a giant pain to maintain. In this case, the tank is essentially 4 feet front to back from the main viewing pane. Me and the fish again have a totally different axis to swim on, not just back and forth, but really all over. Not just that, but the room for island effects and totally different kind of sense of depth for the room and corals from all angles. In fact, once I got the idea that I could essentially have 2 totally different 5.5 foot wide aquascapes with this peninsula and 2 ways to view the tank, I was sold. A 4 foot deep tank really delivers on the promise of both sides of the tank. Not only that, but there's a third pane on the front, which is 4 feet wide and about 5.5 feet deep. So there's 3 totally different ways to enjoy the exact same tank. In terms of maintenance, well, it's a foot deep. I can access it from both sides, so it's really only 24 inches from each side. There will be areas like the backside of rock which will be somewhat difficult to deal with, but this is the compromise that I'm willing to make. To help with that, Chris Benner at Sticks and Stone Stands is going to incorporate fold-out steps into the stand for me. I also made it 26.5 inches tall, just over that common 24 inches, because my arms are a bit longer than average, and anything over that 26.5, Felix at Reef Savvy wanted to do cross braces, which I just didn't want because they block light and they're a challenge for reef tanks. As to why 67 inches or 5.5 feet wide, well, it's all about lighting. Unless something new materializes the next few months, I'm almost certainly going to light this with T5 LED hybrid solution. It's just what works best for me and all of my builds, the collective builds here at BRS, and what virtually all of my own mentors use. If I don't go this way, there'll be a very specific reason. So I'm going to plan around that at this point with very likely Kessel 360Xs for LEDs. So the reason for 5.5 feet is to leave room for 5 foot T5 bulbs and end caps. I just need a few inches on each side for the install and hood. I also can't help it, I like the sound of a 360, more than twice as big as the 160 we did before, and the nature of bringing it all around 360 degrees, full circle from that first tank in my basement nearly a decade ago. Everything we've learned since then, applying to what amounts to be my dream 10 to 20 year tank, a super fun journey. So this is the BRS360, or at least what's represented by PVC. In just 30 minutes at 12:30 today, Victor, one of the founders of Worldwide Corals and the largest group of reefing trade shows in the world with Reefapalooza, is going to join us. He's produced or been part of more large dream-style tanks than most of us combined. Click this link here to join us live for that raw, in-depth conversation. I can tell you one thing for sure. Every last person watching will learn something new or see the vision behind the ideas. We'll see you there.